Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Linda calling in from Buffalo. This is the Optimize My Life show brought to you by the Hope Collection. And today we have the privilege of discussing nutrition matters with Beth Wyman, who is a registered dietitian with over 10 years of experience. So she has the information that we are looking for. So welcome, Beth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Now my children are registered for after school, so that's good.
Good.
I realized yesterday I never sent that in. I verbally talked to the church that they go to for after school, but never sent the official paperwork. So now that's done.
Official paperwork, that's the key.
There's always something, I feel like. You think you have every piece, and then there's always something else. But I think we have everything. I don't know. I'm sure something will be forgotten. Tomorrow's the real first day. Yes, so it's a big deal. And I thought that today, in honor of that, we would talk about the changes that come with back to school. So school lunches, changing schedules for home, and how that changes how we eat. Because I know in my house it also means that there's more activities that we're doing and sports schedules and all kinds of stuff in addition to just school. So timely. I know some people have already started. I know down south they start in August, I think, usually. So they've been on this track. And I know you were saying out there some people started yesterday, right?
I think so.
I know we've been seeing buses do it looks like they're doing kind of like trial runs of their routes too. So we've seen some buses out and about. But so with school lunches approaching, there's always the option to just buy lunch. I know there are more districts now that do universal free lunch. That's a really interesting topic. And I can't remember if it's specific to New York State or if it's federal, that it's if a certain percentage of your district falls within a certain income amount, that then the entire district can get free lunch now. That's sort of like what happened after. So during COVID, everybody got free lunch. It was like one of the initiatives that came out is that all children everywhere got free lunch. And then as it rolled back, right, as some of these programs that came out during COVID have been rolled back, what it transitioned to was, okay, if your district, if X amount or X percentage of the people in your district meet these income guidelines, then everyone can still get free lunch. And so where I live, there's a few districts around ours that get free lunch, but ours does not. And so the food service director sent out a memo because you could tell reading it, she was just really tired of answering the question and having people think that she was trying to withhold free lunch. And she's like, we can't do it. We don't meet the guidelines. It's not that we don't want to.
Yeah.
It was very well worded. She did a great job with it, but I was reading it. I'm like, she's tired of answering the same question and people thinking that she's trying to withhold free lunch. So we don't have that option here. But a lot of people do now, and I think it's wonderful. And I know that school lunch has kind of gotten a bad rap, but they are held to nutrition guidelines. Actually, my internship was focused on school food service, of all things, and that's not what I ended up doing at all, but that's where my internship was focused. And there are a lot of guidelines that they have to meet for their menu planning, for how much is served, for what is served. especially if it's a reimbursable meal. And so those places that do completely free lunch, what it is they're serving reimbursable meals. So it has to have a certain amount of whatever, like vegetables and proteins, and it has to have a certain percent of whole grains and things like that. So there are guidelines that they have to adhere to. Versus if the kids are just buying and it's not to be reimbursed, they can just buy whatever they want. They can eat, pizza and fries and call it a day. Because it's just like, it's just like going to a store and buying it. So there's different. School lunch gets a bad rap, but some of it is, okay, well, is it a reimbursable meal or is it just the kid buying stuff? Because those are two different things. And then realizing that, they are working on a very tight budget. A lot of school districts aren't like, that's the best way to put it. Like, it's not like they're funded by the school district. They're sort of self-funded by the reimbursement from the meals, rather than being an additional part of the budget. So they're working on a very tight budget. And so, like, no, you're not going to have, like, mangoes when it's out of season. Like, expensive things like that aren't going to happen. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times it's running almost like an independent business within the school system, rather than being part of the school budget. I mean, every district is going to be different, but that's been my experience and what I saw in this area, especially going through my internship. So it was fascinating, actually, to learn about. So they get a lot of subsidized stuff from USDA, from the government. And so it's like your big, they're called number 10 cans. They're like the giant cans of whatever it is, like canned fruit and things like that. And that's come a long way. Like, it needs to be canned in juice now, so that it's not a ton of added sugar. So there are changes that have been made over the years, and it's not exactly what it used to be, but it's not a home-cooked meal. I know where I was, those kids actually, I don't think they ever realized how good they had it, but they got homemade soup every day as like the soup option. I'm like, there's literally an Italian woman in the back making you soup. It was so good. But there's a little bit of perception that happens with it too. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, it's been like this all day. So excuse me if I sneeze through our entire recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't have school lunches actually all through until high school. We walked to school and we came home for lunch and went back. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Until high school, the guy had to take two buses because I chose a high school that wasn't close by because they had a wonderful business department. It was like a college course.
Oh, nice.
And so, but the funny thing with it was in a very Polish section of town, and almost all the lunches were Polish food, which, of course, this little Irish girl had never had any of this stuff. So it was quite interesting.
Yeah, that is different. It's and that cultural influence definitely happens. I mean, even still, where I did my internship, it was a very Catholic, actually very like Italian Catholic area. And so during Lent, they did not serve meat on Fridays to the entire district, in keeping with Catholic traditions. I was like, this is wild, but okay. They're like, this. And I remember talking to the director, and she's like, this is this is what they want, like what has been requested by, the district and the parents and everything. And she's like, and it's, it meets our requirements. So it's, we'll go for it. And it got eaten. Yeah. It's not like they saw a dip in lunch orders or anything on those days. They got eaten. So they did it. But that definitely plays a role. It's, not everywhere has,
mind you, how many years ago, though, that was, so now schools are just all consolidated, not neighborhood schools like it was, when I was a child.
Yeah, and there are, I know around here, the church actually where my kids do after school, but also where my daughter went to preschool, they have a grade school as well, and they partner with a local school district to be able to serve school lunches, because a lot of other private schools don't serve school lunch unless it's brought in by family. I don't remember why I was there as an intern, but I was at a local private school, and the families rotated, and I forget like what it was, if it was each week or every day or whatever, but rotated through making lunch for the entire school.
Oh, my.
I mean, entire school is going to be a lot smaller than what I would normally think of as like a public school. So, maybe it's like 100 kids, but still, like that's a lot. In which case there aren't guidelines that they're adhering to necessarily, unless the school has set something up. It's just about providing food. I wish I remembered more about how they had that whole setup. It's something I saw in passing when I was there doing something with their school nurse while I was an intern. I don't remember what it was exactly, but I thought it was an interesting setup. And then when my kids were in a different daycare and preschool, they did that with snack. So every week a different family brought in snack just for your classroom, though. It wasn't for the whole school. It was just for the classroom. I don't know. Maybe that's how the other school was, but it was by class. But, yeah, so, like, on our week we'd be told, like, okay, the classroom would like whatever, 6 cucumbers, 5 bananas, a jar of applesauce, I don't know, whatever. Tortilla chips and salsa always came up. But then you're worrying about everybody's food allergies, and it got a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I primarily pack their lunches. What I tend to do is I print out the calendar with the menu on it for lunch, and then my son will circle what he wants to eat, which lunches he'll like, and then the other days I pack his food. And I have really simplified it and made it into like a system to make it easier on myself, because at the end of the day, it's really just making sure that they eat something, and doing your best to make it nutritious as well. So he gets, and they're a little different, and I've been packing their lunches for most of the summer too, for when they were in summer camp, and so that is exactly the same. And they get a sandwich. I got to figure out something for him, because right now he wants deli rolls, like the long, like hoagie type rolls. Oh. And those aren't as high in fiber. They're not whole grain. So I got to figure out something, because normally what I use is a whole wheat white bread. So it looks like white bread, but it's whole wheat. So it's got the fiber content of a whole wheat bread, a whole grain bread. It just looks like white bread. Yeah. And so it's a little bit of like, visually it's what he wants, but then nutritionally it's what I want him to be eating. So it was a great compromise until these deli rolls came into our lives, and now I've got to figure out what to do. So for right now, he's doing deli rolls. But he usually has like a turkey and cheese sandwich. My daughter typically eats sun butter and jelly because you can't do peanut butter. And she'll have it on the whole wheat bread. So they each get a sandwich. They each get some kind of fruit, whatever it is. It might be apple slices or berries are usually the two options. And then they get some sort of vegetable. It's typically either cucumbers or carrots. Sometimes I'll do peppers. And then some kind of like cracker component. So it might be goldfish. It might be Ritz crackers. It might be pretzels and like a little snacky side kind of a thing. And then that's it. That's lunch. There's slight variations, like, apples to berries or cucumbers to carrots. But beyond that, it's the same thing because they eat it and because I don't have to think as hard in the morning when I'm making it. So I know there is very low food waste, and I'm not going to strain myself. I know some people pack their lunches the night before. I can't get into that routine. I've tried. And plus, sometimes I feel like sandwiches, when you make them the night before, just aren't good.
Right.
Yeah. So the other big alternative that I'll do with them, I know this sounds earth-shattering, but it's not, is I'll do pasta salad instead of the sandwich. So it's always the same pasta salad, and I make it and keep it in the fridge for the week. And it's whatever shape of noodle with cherry tomatoes and olives, cut up cheese stick, and cut up either pepperoni or salami, whatever I happen to have, and Italian dressing. And I mix it up, and I'll eat that. Yeah, that's the big change if they want anything. And I don't do a whole wheat pasta or a chickpea pasta or anything. I just do regular pasta because that is what they will eat, right? Like at some point, I need them to eat. So that is a spot where like I haven't done a substitution, but they're getting in some like fiber from the fruits and the vegetables too. So it's not like they're completely lacking. The big comment, so a couple years ago, maybe I'll resurrect this and put it out again this year. A couple years ago, I did a whole like series of posts about what I put into my kids' lunch boxes to give, for different meal ideas for other people to use and things. One of the big comments I kept getting was, there's not enough protein. And I was like, well, there's a couple things there. One, like you're looking at one meal out of their entire day. And two, children have very different needs than adults. So you're right. For an adult, there's probably not enough protein in that meal. But for a child, it's fine. Also, you don't know. What if they had like a really high protein breakfast and a really high protein dinner, and that middle spot is where they're getting in the majority of their carbohydrates or something. So there's always more than just the one meal, and kids' needs are different. And I don't think that that's stressed enough in like the popular culture narrative about how you're supposed to eat, that they actually need more carbohydrates than adults do. A greater percentage of their calorie intake should be from carbs than what an adult needs, right? And that's just speaking about like general recommendations. That's not getting into like what activities are they in, because if you have a kid that's like doing cross country or some sort of crazy endurance, like their carb needs are even higher. So it's, yeah, there's definitely a misconception there. But when it comes to adults, typically, right, because we're keeping it super general, typically their carbohydrates should be like 40 to 50% of their total calories for the day. Is like really average. For kids, it should usually, it really depends on like where they are in stages of development and everything, but it's usually at least around 60% of their calories should be from carbs. So more than half. So if I'm giving them a lunch and it's like like the the sun butter and jelly sandwich with fruit. Like, say I double up and do 2 fruits that day, and it's just a whole box of carbs. Like, that's okay. What also gets forgotten is that, like, bread products or anything made with wheat, really, has some protein in it. That's what gluten is. It's the protein found in wheat. So there's always going to be a little bit. It's not a great source, but there's some. And there's some in, like, the sun butter, and obviously some in, like, the turkey sandwich, because that's more of what we think of when we think of protein. So, yeah, it's there, and it's a little bit different. And it's, a great point of education and a great discussion of not putting an adult's needs onto a child, because they are at a very different stage in their life.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Beth, in this country.
Hi, how
Beth,
are you?
I was really absorbing what you were saying, and it's real fun to hear different perspectives and how people handle different children. And my mentor and I have 42. We have an after-school program, so a lot of the kids get off the bus around 3:45, and a lot of their parents don't get home or get off work until 6 or 6:30, sometimes even late at 7 o'clock if they get stuck in traffic. But one of the first things that I did is I aligned ourselves with the school nutritionist. So they started bringing us a lot of lunches in the afternoon, and I made a couple of phone calls. This one company donates us milk, both almond milk and regular milk and lactase, which is, of course, non-dairy. But they started bringing me 2 cases of white milk, 2 cases of chocolate milk, but there's 90 cartons of milk in each case, which means I had 180 cartons of chocolate and 100 cartons of white milk and then 100 cartons of lactate. So what happens in the process is I was able to start giving children extra milk and sometimes extra lunches to come home. And then we aligned ourselves with the health and nutritionist person and the librarian. They help us to access a lot of food charts that show what fruits and veggies have what in it. So now we turn our lunches into games. So the children that remember from the visual charts that they have, we reward them with tangerines and cantaloupe and apples and bananas, and we have a real good grasp on what children can have what and what they're allergic to and all those wonderful things. But since we've turned lunches or dinner or whatever you want to call it and snacks in the game, and if you remember the right answer, we'll give you a pack of raisins or we'll give you some extra grapes. And the kids they're more energized in the afternoon because a lot of the kids that come to us had lunch that day at their daycare center or so around 10 or 10:30. And by the time 4 o'clock rolls around, they've been all day long. And then you bring them out of school, and then we try to assist them in getting their homework prior to going home. But if you've ever tried to get a kid to be still when it's 90 degrees and they're hungry and they've been in school all day long, it's been quite a task. But then we started designating a lot of the kids to help teach the class and come up and do the demonstration and use the little pointer to part things out on the chart and the hands fly up in the air. And I know, and I know, and I know. And then we kind of reward everybody at the end of the class, whether you was able to raise your hand or answer questions or if you're a little bit slow at comprehending. So it's been a lot of fun. This is the most fun. I'm a chef for about 30-something years. I cooked 14 different types of cuisine without the pork, without the salt, without all that stuff that's not good for you. But now, after we're sharing certain things with the children, they're able to go home and tell their parents what they want for dinner. They're able to assist them and say, Mom, Tuesday, can we have pasta? And can we have this? And can we have that? And now they're choosing and making choices. We got children that are 7 and 8 years old making choices about food groups. And then we'll have this little 5-year-old girl. She's the youngest in the class. She wants to know, well, how much this stuff has minerals in it. And I'm like, minerals? What do you know about minerals? She's an educated little old girlfriend and tells you that your body runs off of minerals. And if you don't have enough minerals in your body, then you're going to get tired and you can't concentrate. And I'm just sitting there in awe. So I'm loving the information, Beth, a lot of the different ideas that you have. Linda, when you shared what you shared, again, when we brought up sack lunch was either pimento cheese, bologna sandwich, or peanut butter and jelly. But our kids have graduated from there. And then on Fridays, I do a special treat, frozen Kool-Aid on fruit pops, but except they don't know to sweeten the Kool-Aid with honey. So it does have a sweet taste at the end. You get a chance to choose whether you want strawberry or grape or cherry or orange. And when you give kids choices, like I know a friend of mine, every time we go out with a bunch of adult people, I kind of watch them in the buffet line, and if they don't know what they want to eat and they're not used to making choices, they usually follow you through the line, and Beth, whatever you put on your plate, they might get some, and then they see what Linda puts on her plate, and they'll get some of what Linda has. So we're teaching children about a variety of foods, how the color codes have certain things in them and certain things that you need to stay away from. And probably I wouldn't be afraid to say that 80% of the children that come to our classrooms in the afternoon now, I wouldn't be afraid to say that 80% of them never have candy. Not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they're using fruits and carrots and things that have a natural sweet taste, slices of pears that have a natural sweet taste that will allow them to grow up not craving and wanting candy. And I'll kind of just stop right there, but thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, my son's teacher last year had clementines in the classroom. And from what I gathered from him, right, so this is coming from an 8-year-old at the time, they were there if a kid forgot snack, they could get a clementine instead, or if you got hungry, like in the afternoon, you were allowed to go have a clementine. And there are plenty of studies that children learn better when they have had enough to eat. And so that's part of the reason that they still have a snack time. And there are quite a few teachers that out of their own pocket do things like that, where they bring in snacks for the kids that don't have them. And so this is where you can get into like the disadvantages in education, right? If a kid can't, say there isn't a teacher that, for whatever reason, the teacher can't afford to bring in a snack, which is fine, it's not part of their job description, right? Then the kid's family can't afford to send in a snack. You now have this kid that's at a disadvantage because they're probably not going to learn and comprehend and absorb the information as well because they're hungry. So part of the way to sort of level that playing field is by doing things like offering free lunch to the whole district, so that the kids have something, at least for lunch and things like that. Because there is, oh my gosh, there's a term for it that I'm going to totally forget. But there's this, it's the something cliff, where there's this disconnect between when somebody's eligible for services or like meets the poverty guidelines for getting free lunch and when they don't. And they can be like $30 off from meeting the guidelines, right? Maybe their monthly income is $30 too much, but because of where they live and the cost of whatever, like they still can't afford lunches. So you have this strange, like, oh my God, it's going to bother me that I can't remember. It's the something cliff, where there's this huge fall off, rather than like a gradual reduction of services. It's either you do or you don't. Like it's a hard line. But I know that that's come up in some of like the food security work that I've been a part of, is that there's this issue of like, well, no, I don't qualify, but it's also still like way too much for me to be packing a healthy lunch, or buying it every day. So yeah, but kids, it's been studied. Children learn better when they have full bellies.
I want to add one more thing before I get off. I'm sorry, Beth. One more last thing.
Okay.
One of the last things that we did is we tapped into Publix, Ingles, and IGA is one of our local grocery stores here in Georgia. And we explained to them what we was doing with the parents. And a lot of the parents are single parents, home, single moms raising 2-3 kids at different ages. But they give us $150 per week on a gift card. And what we do is we take the gift card and purchase healthy nutritional snacks, not only that they can have while they're at school, but we also give them healthy snacks to take home in case their parents don't have the necessary things that they need when they get home in the evening. They can have some extra things that they can share. And we've been playing a program called Pay It Forward, to where if you're blessed with an apple, we make sure that every kid leaves with at least 2 clementines or 2 tangerines or 2 apples or 2 bananas so that they can pay it forward. And now we have a whole lot of wonderful things going on just because of health and nutrition. So thank you guys for sharing, and I'm going to have to jump off right now, but please continue on, Beth, and thank you for sharing the information that you've been sharing with everybody that's listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for the work you're doing with that group. And community programs, like what it sounds like Country Boy has just sort of started on his own, can be so important for making sure that kids get enough to eat. And that's really why school lunch started. So school lunch was originally born, if you will, because men were not meeting the height and weight requirements for being drafted. They were underweight from being malnourished and from not eating enough. So the National School Lunch Program was born to provide more food so that men would gain weight and be eligible to be drafted. So it was self-serving, essentially, on the part of the government to make sure that they created men that were able to go to war. Our lives are not quite the same now, but that is the original intent, and then it's sort of shifted and morphed over the years into providing nutritious food and providing meeting certain nutrient guidelines rather than just being something to eat. Gone are the days where they can just serve a slice of bread and cheese and call it a lunch. Like, you'd need to have a fruit or a vegetable and things like that. So it's shifted over the years and grown and changed, but it's important to remember why it started and where it came from, because I think it gives some perspective. But at the end of the day, it's to make sure that there's something to eat, so that men can be drafted for war. I don't know why that just tickles me somehow. I don't know why. There was something else I was going to say about. So interestingly, not that a lot of kids like fish, but the omega fatty acids, especially ones that you find in fatty fish like salmon, those are exceptionally helpful for brain development and cognitive functioning. So if we're really going to look at, do school lunches or the lunches that we send into school need to support learning and brain health, we would also need to be starting to incorporate some of these omega-3 fatty acids and making sure that we're sending in things like a fatty fish and things like that for lunches. But salmon's not going to travel well in a lunchbox.
No.
No, but it's interesting that does impact cognitive functioning even in children, to have those omega-3s. So thankfully I have one child that will eat fish, and then the other one that acts like I'm poisoning her. So we may have just an experiment on our hands of of how it affects children based on mine. I have one that it's, we didn't get any this week, but usually once a week we will have salmon because it's a reasonable price at Aldi's where I typically go grocery shopping. So we have it once a week. I didn't get it this week, though, because this is a weird week with school starting and there's no summer camp and they're kind of bouncing around a little bit, so they're not always here for dinner. And I needed quick things, which is actually the second part of what I wanted to talk about today was how it changes meals at home with school starting. Because if you've had kids at home for lunch all summer, now suddenly your grocery budget is going to be different if you're sending them to school and they're eating school lunch, or you're buying different things and making that transition, right? Yes, it's a transition for the kids, but it's definitely also a transition for the parents into a new routine for eating and making food. And so I think that having some quick, easy options becomes really important because there's. Oh, do we still have Country Boy on? Does he know he's there?
I don't know.
So quick, easy options because you've got things like homework, right? And so, I mean, my kids are at the age where they still need help with homework, and I feel like I needed help with homework all through school. I had questions and things. So that doesn't necessarily change. And so if I'm tied in the kitchen, I'm like, I can't leave this thing on the stove when you have a question, or I can't look away, that's not going to work. I mean, pretty much everything I make anyway is going to take me 30 minutes or less because that's really all the time I have to dedicate to it. And leaning into things that are prepared, I feel like it's a bad rap, but it could be a good way to stay on track, make sure you eat things, and it's really not always as bad as you think, right? And it's sort of redefining what is a convenience food, right? So like pre-cut up vegetables, one, make a really great after-school snack, and two, can make making a recipe that much easier. Like last night, we did steak and veggie quesadillas, super easy and quick. And I did pre-cut up. I only did the mushrooms pre-cut up, but then thinking about it while I was making them, I'm like, I'm pretty sure in the grocery store I could have gotten cut up peppers and onions too. And this is something where like it's going to cost a little bit more, but how much is your time worth, right? If you have the resource to pay for something that's going to give you a bit of convenience, it can definitely be worth it to save some extra time. And in that case, you're saving time in prep and in doing dishes because it's one less thing to clean. You're not having a cutting board and a knife out in addition to your pan and spatula. I did pre-shredded cheese, so I wasn't shredding the cheese. And then we did ground venison, actually, instead of steak, even though the recipe was for steak quesadillas. And so, like, that was the only piece that I truly had to prep was cooking and seasoning the meat, and then I sauteed the vegetables, and then we slapped it all together with some cheese in some high-fiber wraps and had quesadillas. Again, sneaking fiber into my children. It makes such a difference for them, so I sneak it in where I can. But having quick, easy meals, and that's something that sometimes I'll serve, like, carrots and ranch on the side. And, so, like, last night, though, we just ate the quesadillas. There's vegetables inside it, so really it didn't need anything else. We just had that. And realizing that it doesn't need to be, like, a full spread every time you eat. It doesn't have to be fancy. There are some shortcuts you can take, like pre-cut up vegetables or pre-shredded cheese, where you're going to just save yourself a little bit of time on both ends of the recipe. right, in the prepping piece of it and in the cleanup piece of it. I mean, I could have gotten real smart and, like, done the quesadilla in the same pan that I had cooked the meat and veggies in, but I did not do that. And reduced my dishes even more. I hate doing dishes. I will do anything to, like, not use an extra dish or, like, utensil when I'm cooking.
The convenience is important, you know. I mean, yes, so you say you spend a little more money, but at the same time, I just remember buying, I was buying a pre-made salad, and this person that I didn't even know said, well, you know, you can save money if you buy all the ingredients. It was like a macaroni salad. I said, I'm the only one that eats it. I would have to buy so much, you know, just for one person.
Yeah.
You know, it's like sometimes, yes, probably, but in the long run, I probably would waste more money because it might not all get used up before it went bad. So, you know, there's times to use convenience and times for nosy people to mind their own business.
I mean, they're right. You would save money, but in making it, if it was all to get eaten, but yeah, especially then you're looking at from a food waste perspective of if you were to buy all of that and make it, sure, it might be cheaper, but you're going to throw a bunch of it out. So, no, it's not cheaper because now you've thrown money down the drain.
Right. Exactly.
So it's, yeah, I grew up with a lot of that from my mom of like, well, it's cheaper if we buy the ingredients and make it. And I'm like, well, yes, but she had the time, kind of, and from my perception at least. She had the time to make those things or like cut up all the vegetables. So I know a big hindrance for some people is like, yes, they have the vegetables in the fridge, but then never use them as a snack because it's too much effort to, buy a veggie tray. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, just buy a vegetable tray like you would use for parties and keep it in your fridge. And then it's like, well, isn't that more expensive? I'm like, aren't you wasting your money by having the vegetables rot in the veggie drawer in your fridge? It's not, at least this way you're actually eating them.
Yes, exactly.
So you're not wasting money. I mean, it's truly a waste if it's just rotting in your fridge versus paying for a convenience so that you actually consume them. Yeah, for some reason, fruit is a lot easier to just pick up and eat, but, you know, we don't normally pick up like a pepper and just eat it like you would like an apple or a pear. You can, but for whatever reason, we just don't. We like our vegetables cut up. So that's part of what really changes, right? We need some of these quicker options. And a lot of times if you lean into some of that convenience portion, it can definitely be faster than hitting a drive-through, depending on how far out of your way you need to go for a drive-through and then how long you're waiting in line and things like that. So it all adds up. I find that a lot of times when I'm looking for, like, drive-through food on a weeknight, it has a lot more to do with, like, the mental burden than it does time restriction. It's like, I just don't want to figure out what to make when we get home. So let's stop and grab something. And that's where meal planning comes in, right? And planning out for the week what you want to be able to eat, which then also helps you make a grocery list. And then so you're, and it helps reduce food waste too. So you end up not throwing out as much food, so you're saving money in a way from that end. And it also helps to narrow down what you're buying at the grocery store, which saves money as well. So meal planning has so many different functions, but from this perspective, we're talking about is like it definitely reduces the mental burden. You know what you have in the house ready to eat. Maybe not ready made, but ready to be made in, like in my case, in less than 30 minutes. I know I can make something and have it on the table. And so it reduces you're doing it for future you, right? Like you're reducing the mental burden. So future you can easily make something for dinner on the Tuesday when everybody's got practice and you're running all over town. You know, like you can make it. Actually, what my daughter and I have done sometimes is I'll cook early and we'll bring it with us to baseball practice as a picnic. Which then like feels super special to her because we're getting to do a picnic and keeps her entertained. And then we're still keeping our daily schedule kind of in line. That's been our biggest challenge, I think, looking at this school year, is that she can't nap anymore, right? So we've gone most of the summer without her doing any naps, but then she's done by 7 p.m. Like done, needs to be in bed. But baseball practice doesn't end until 7. So I'm like, how do I, because I'm one person, get her ready for bed and be at baseball practice? So I'm either going to have to kind of do like a back and forth, like drop him off, come home, get her ready for bed, and then go back, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That's going to take some experimenting.
Yeah, because just 7 o'clock, just getting her into bed, but no, you have to, teeth, bathe, and do all the other stuff so then now it's 7:30, 7:45 before she's in bed.
Oh, and this girl takes the longest baths ever, I swear. They're like at least 20 to 30 minutes. Like the water's cold. How are you still in there? Yeah, so that's going to be our big challenge because we've had a couple weeks now of baseball practice, but at least it's summer, so like if she goes down a little late, she just wakes up late the next morning, and we've kind of finagled it and made it work, but she's so done by 7. It's crazy. It's crazy to watch. It's like a switch. But yeah, and it's taking the time to sit back and look at the logistics and like basically run your household like a business of like, okay, here's our schedule. This is what we're doing. This is where they're not workers, they're children, but like this is where they need to be at this time so that this runs properly.
Makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. So I think, I don't know what we're going to do. But it's cute when we're able to do the picnic aspect of it and making it fun but still work within the structure of the day. And I've made like stir fry and just thrown it in a big container and brought disposable bowls, and we put it in bowls and ate it at the baseball field. It was not a fancy picnic. But it's still fun, right? And it's not,
right.
I think that releasing some of the expectation is very much needed in order to keep your own sanity as you go through the schedule changes and figuring out how to make something work. I think a lot of times we look at all of the difficulties and forget to take a step back and sometimes very creatively find a way to make something work.
Right.
And there's always a way.
A chili, because, it's portable and, it's autumn, you need something a little warm to be in your belly. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting into like crock pot season, so that will certainly come into play soon too in our household, where I'm just going to have dinner cooking all day in the crock pot, and then I don't have to worry about it when it comes to dinner time. It's already there. That'll be exciting. We'll do stews and chili. I don't think my kids eat cornbread, but I will make cornbread to go with it. There's some interesting things they won't eat. Cornbread and sweet potatoes.
Oh, okay. Well, for the longest, when I was a child, I wouldn't eat shrimp. It wasn't until we were well married that I had shrimp at a wedding, and ever since then I love it. But your taste change. There's things that you wouldn't eat as a child, and then things that as a child I would love liver and liverwurst. But now that because of cholesterol that I wouldn't. But so it goes both ways.
That's an interesting thing to like as a child.
I know. But there was one that I did, but especially liverwurst. Oh, but again, there's things that I haven't eaten for years. We went to a Chinese restaurant Friday, Saturday, I don't know. My dates are all mixed up. Sunday. Or was it Monday? It was Monday because it was on Labor Day.
Oh my goodness!
We went to the movie. We saw that Reagan movie, and it was excellent.
Oh.
But we stopped at a Chinese restaurant, and we were laughing because growing up we never had Chinese food. We would have the most Chinese food we would have was the not Chef Boyardee. I can't even think of the name of the brand anymore. It was a Chungking, yes, and that was as exotic as we ever got with food, and so so it was fun. I like cashew chicken. That is it for Chinese food. That's only Chinese food I'll eat. So it's just kind of strange, but sometimes just trying something new. Things that you wouldn't eat as a child, you would eat now, and vice versa.
Yeah. I think it's something like every 7 years you have like a turnover in your taste buds and things can change. Yeah, so I guess every 7 years try something that you didn't think you liked before. That's like my son has some interesting taste for a now 9-year-old. He loves sardines. So
really?
I keep sardines. Yes, he loves them. So I keep them around for him to snack on. It's a snack food for him. I'm like, more power to you. Sometimes he has them on crackers. Sometimes he just eats them plain, but loves them. I don't even remember how I think he tried them with my dad one day. But yeah, it's and who knows? Maybe when he grows up, he won't like them anymore. But for now, we've been keeping them for snacks, and he needs much bigger snacks than he used to have. So that's been helpful to have that around. Or like we have like cheese and turkey. They're like these turkey pepperoni sticks, little snack packs. Just quick, easy snacks, because that after school time is coming where they're going to be here. They're going to get home and be starving and need something.
Yeah.
Because lunch can be really early. Oh, that's 6 minutes. I was afraid we were super close. That's not as bad as I thought.
That's good.
So lots and lots of changes. And I'm trying to... One of my things for this week is I'm trying to find a good way to put it up on my website that I have a meal planning app where it's based on like each person's needs. So whatever like my individual needs are in terms of calories, protein, fat, all that. And then it'll populate in recipes that will work. So you can either just use it as a food logging app or use it to meal plan. And it's been incredibly helpful for me for meal planning, because then it gives you a grocery list to either send off to Instacart or to I print it out and go to the store, because I enjoy going to the store. But I'm trying to find a way to like put it up on the website and have other people be able to use it. I just don't really know. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do it. If everybody needs like a little visit first, or if it's just like a little quiz that they can fill out. I don't know, something. so that it's very low lift for me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of it that can be automated. So that's coming. That is in the works. I'm hoping in the next few weeks to have that up and running. And so anybody that's dealing with all of the scheduling changes and back to school and is looking to simplify, they'll be able to use that.
That's cool because, it's those shortcuts, and just to keep, we have found, besides our calendar that we have to write everything down, but grocery list, before we go to the store, because it's like, okay, I know we need poultry seasoning. Well, we couldn't even find it at the store, believe it or not. They didn't have it. Hopefully they get it in soon. But we went to 2 different stores and could not find poultry seasoning because we like roasting chicken and we do the stuffing the whole bit. But if we don't write it down, we get to the store and then we come home. It's like, oh, you know what we forgot to get? And the next time we need it, it's like, yes,
or that you're running out for one thing.
Forget things.
Yeah, that's why, I keep a list on the fridge for when things run out, right? Like cooking oil and garbage bags and things. And so I've got that list, and then I just combine it with my printed list from doing the meal planning for my total list, I guess. And I have the meal planner set so that it makes enough for the kids to eat dinner too, because other than that, their lunches are different than mine, so I just know what to get for their lunches, and then their breakfasts are different than mine, so I just know what to get for their breakfast. And so you can set it by it's kind of cool, by which meals you'll be sharing with other people, and then how old the other people are, right? Are you planning for a child or another adult? And then it'll adjust how big the recipe needs to be.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. I finally had the good sense to use it for myself. I was like, why? I have this for other people. Maybe I should use it. And it's been great. Which is why I want to and share it out there more, because there's plenty of people that just need that aspect and don't really need to meet with a dietitian. They just need some guidance on meal planning and how to do it. And so this really helps with that end of it. And it's, very streamlined from a user perspective now that I've been using it.
Cool.
Because it's I get plenty of people that are like, well, tell me what to eat. And I'm like, no. I can tell you generally what to eat, but in terms of individual things, it's so personalized based on what you like.
Yes.
Yeah,
so many. Well, thank you, Beth. Do you want to just wrap up by telling everyone how we can get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. So I am most active on Instagram. My handle there is Beth Wyman _RD. And then you can also find me in the Optimize My Life Facebook group by posting in there. Or I believe there's a chat that's specifically for this show as well. You can always write in questions or topic ideas, things you want to hear about. I'm always open to suggestions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Beth. You have a wonderful week. And
thanks, you too.
We have, good luck on the first day of school. How exciting for your daughter being her first big girl class, being a kindergarten.
It's a big day for us tomorrow.
Yes, well, I'll look forward to next week to find out how it all came about and all the fun and how you're working out all the sports, and after school
my schedule
going on. because I'm sure with our listeners, you're not the only one. I'm sure that there's other people in similar situations. So it would be great to hear back on successes and topics like that. So, but thank you again. Have a fabulous week, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.